Welcome back. Godrej Consumer Products has seen strong growth this year, driven by key geographies like India and Indonesia and core categories such as home care and personal wash. CEO Sudhir Sitapati highlights that the company is also betting big on categories of the future, such as air fresheners, liquid detergents, and pet care, with sustained investments in product innovation and marketing. Innovation remains central to GCPL's strategy, with iconic India-first launches like Godrej Aero and shampoo hair color now making inroads into global markets. Sitapati shares these insights and how moving creative work in-house has improved speed and reduced cost and sharpened brand impact, while clear success metrics and creative checks help keep the content fresh. Sudhir, welcome to CNBC TV18.
Thanks, Shibani.
During the presentation, you mentioned the products of the future for GCPL. Can you elaborate a bit more on that? You mentioned air fresheners, you mentioned liquid detergent also as products of the future. What is the kind of investment GCPL will put in product development going forward for these products of the future, and also promotion?
These are categories of the future which are underpenetrated in India today, but over the next 15-20 years, penetration of these categories will rapidly rise. Let's take an example of air care, which has actually reached critical mass, and GCPL has about 40% share of the market there. It's a category that we have invested very heavily in advertising. We have then invested very heavily in innovations. So over every year for the last 3 years, we've had a blockbuster innovation. We first got a product called Airmatic, which you would have seen. It's sprays push in the room. Then we launched something called Aero, which kind of an oval thing that hangs in the car at 99 rupees. And we're just launching something called Air Plug, which is an electric device that you put into your room and the room smells good. So the investments in air, and giving you a specific example, are in media and in innovation to drive. And that's broadly the story across all categories of the future.
And how much of these innovations are like the larger part of the growth strategy for GCPL?
I think they're a very large part of the growth strategy. GCPL has three sets of categories. Soaps, which is a 99% penetrated category. So there is a limitation of volume growth on soaps. There's household insecticide, which is a category which hasn't done well in the past, but it has potential to grow. We feel that it's not a category that can't grow. And then these categories of the future, which have to grow at mid-teens in order to get kind of high single-digit volume growths.
Yeah, so it's also a way to offset the pressure when it comes to soaps, which is your largest category, since you mentioned that, there has been a pressure over there considering the palm oil prices have gone up in the past few months.
But this palm oil price is every 2-3 years it shoots up, and, we know what to do, which is to basically absorb in the short term, your margins reduce. And you absorb it and then it comes back. It doesn't worry us that much. What worries us more about soaps is everybody uses a soap. So there are only so many vectors of growth for soap. There is one vector of growth, which is body wash. But that's why the rest of the portfolio has to kind of evolve into being much faster growing and much larger.
Now, coming back to innovations and some of the categories of the future that you mentioned, which ones have come out of India market specifically and worked very successfully across, in different countries? And what is actually your strategy when you go about launching these innovations in the other markets? How do you go about that?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of them. For example, our air care category, there's a product called Air Pocket, which has seen success in many international markets. There's a product called shampoo hair color, which has now seen success in Latin America and many other markets. This liquid vaporizer Goodnight, which you put the electric, which we're not the founders of it, but certainly when we've taken it to Bangladesh and Indonesia, it's done well. I think there's a general rule here, which is products that do well in one country tend to do well in all countries. So you have to identify, for example, this Airmatic product, which has done well for us, which is this cylindrical thing that gives out fragrance, was actually a product that we had innovated in Indonesia. And it's sold in Indonesia, so we brought it here and it's sold here. So a lot of these are just cross-pollination of ideas. Some of them are within GCPL. Some of them you must be open to traveling to various countries. seeing what products work, and then moving them around. That's actually the lowest hanging fruit in innovation.
And how do you validate whether it's working or not before taking it to other market? Like what is
Look,
what
if
is
it
the
works,
vector
if
there?
it's wildly successful in one country, the odds are it will be successful everywhere.
Yeah, but
Sometimes
the markets are so diverse.
You know, they're not as diverse as we think they are, especially in home and personal care. I think one of the things, kind of being a CEO of a global company and traveling the world, is not how different the world is, but how similar it is. Because needs of a room smelling good, wherever you are in the world, you have that need, or to kill a mosquito, or to color your hair in 5 minutes. So human needs are pretty universal.
Yeah, and I know that the shampoo hair color is very popular amongst a lot of people that I know as well, and they
Correct.
have been using it extensively. But moving on, there was one important point that you mentioned, that there has not been like a decrease in the advertising spends for your brands. How do you manage all of these inflationary pressures while maintaining, because advertising is something that takes the first hit when there are pressures?
No, I think we are quite clear about the fact that when there is a short-term hit in margins, when there is a high inflation, we better take a short-term hit in margins rather than cutting long-term investments. Because margins come back, providing it's not a structural cost. If it's a temporary cost inflation on account of soaps, we'll recover it back. So our strategy is simply to take a margin hit.
Yeah, and how has moving the agency in-house helped?
I think it's helped in many dimensions. One is it has got the creative folks closer to consumers and closer to business. So they're sitting with the business, they're working with consumers, speaking to consumers, and that's allowed us to kind of create better work. It's allowed work to travel, because we have now one global agency, one sitting in Bombay in our office versus having many agencies across the world. And so it's allowed, like shampoo hair color, the work travels. On Air Pocket, for example, we've created one piece of work. We're not only running the same ad across the world, we're also running it. The media is being run from our office. 3 people sit on a desk, 2 of them on YouTube, 1 of them on Meta, and we're running this across 15 countries. There's, of course, also a cost saving, but I think that's the secondary thing. I think the main advantage that we see in creative is it brings creativity closer to consumer and business.
Yeah, but there's also risk of it becoming like an echo chamber. Like, when like an agency has insights from a lot of different businesses, they actually go to different markets. So how do you ensure that that doesn't happen? I also believe that you've recruited quite a lot of talent from the advertising ecosystem, like Swati Bhattacharya was one of your recent recruits.
Yeah, no, I think there are 2 things here. One is we're quite kind of disciplined about pre-testing of advertising. We believe in it. So, it keeps the quality high, which is, whatever the drawbacks of pre-testing in advertising, it ensures a certain threshold quality. The second is we've recruited a lot of people. It's still early days for us. We've recruited a lot of people from the agency ecosystem. So as things stand, they're fresh, they're coming with ideas. What happens in the future, I don't know. Will it get jaded? Will it become an echo chamber? All this I don't know yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, and this year in particular, it has come with a lot of uncertainty. Of course, now the ongoing geopolitical uncertainty, of course, markets have been on highs and lows. You still maintain that it is not going to impact the ad spends going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think ad spends is a different way. It's advertising is an investment that sits in the profit and loss account. Actually speaking, advertising spend should sit on the balance sheet. It's like building a house, because you're building real estate in consumers' minds. So that accounting rules, say that it's an expense and not an investment, but mentally you should treat it as an investment.
Sudhir, also give us an understanding on, since we mentioned and we spoke about innovation, give us an understanding on what are the innovations going forward that you particularly are most excited about?
Well, a couple of them, and I think they're downstairs for you to see and maybe shoot as you go down. One is we're just launching something called Air Plug, which is electric. I told you about the electric air freshener. We're just launching Block, which is a antiperspirant in a tube. It's not a roll-on, but it's a tube at 99 rupees. We're launching a product called Amazon Woods 4X, which is a highly concentrated deodorant. We're just launching Pet Care, which is a new category as we speak. So these are 4 launches that have happened on May 1st, and I'm speaking about them. We've got a few more coming up in the next few months.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for these insights.
Thank you so much, Shibani.
With that, it's a wrap on Storyboard this week. You can catch all of our content on Facebook, X and YouTube. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time next week. See you soon.